August 8, 1975. Somewhere in the darkness of central China, a wall of water 15 meters tall is moving across the land at 60 kilometers an hour. It is not a river flooding its banks. It is not a storm surge rolling in from the sea. It is an entire reservoir, 600 million cubic meters of water, released in a single instant when the Banqiao Dam tore itself apart. Below it, in the dark, tens of thousands of people are asleep. They never hear it coming. What happened in Henan province in August 1975 is one of the deadliest engineering disasters in recorded human history. It killed more people than the atomic bombing of Hiroshima. It wiped entire counties off the map. And for 2 decades, the Chinese government buried it so completely that most of the world had no idea it ever happened. This is the story of the Banqiao Dam, how it was built, why it failed, and what it cost. The Banqiao Dam was not supposed to fail. That was the entire point of building it. In the early 1950s, the newly established People's Republic of China faced a constant threat in Henan province, devastating seasonal floods along the Huai River basin. For centuries, floods had destroyed crops and taken thousands of lives. The government wanted to stop it permanently, so they built dams, dozens of them, across the entire river system. Banqiao was one of the largest. Completed in 1952, it stood over 24 meters tall and held nearly 700 million cubic meters of water at full capacity. The engineers called it the Iron Dam. They believed it could not fail. But one man disagreed. A hydrological engineer named Chen Xing reviewed the system and saw a problem. The spillways, the structures designed to release excess water, were too small. The drainage system was inadequate. If extreme rainfall occurred, the water would rise faster than the dam could release it. And if that happened, the dam would fail. His warnings were ignored. Worse than that, he was labeled a political dissenter and removed from the project. The system remained unchanged, and the dam stood for a while. In late July of 1975, Typhoon Nina formed in the Pacific Ocean and moved toward mainland China. Normally, storms weaken as they move inland. This one didn't. When it reached central China, it collided with a cold front and stalled. Instead of passing through, it stopped and kept raining. For 3 straight days, the rainfall was beyond anything the region had ever recorded. In just 24 hours, over 1 meter of rain fell. To put that into perspective, some cities don't see that much rain in an entire year. The reservoir began filling at an impossible rate. The spillways were opened to maximum capacity. But it wasn't enough. The water kept rising. Warnings were sent downstream. Many never arrived. Communication systems were failing under the storm. Officials had no plan for evacuation at this scale. By the night of August 7th, the reservoir was full. Water reached the top of the dam, and it was still raining. Just after midnight on August 8th, the dam began to fail. At first, slowly. Water spilled over the top, eroding the structure. The earth beneath it weakened. Then the collapse accelerated. Within hours, the dam broke completely. What followed was not a flood. It was a moving wall of destruction. A massive surge of water spread outward, several meters high and kilometers wide, tearing across the land. Entire villages disappeared in minutes. The force was unstoppable, and Banqiao was only the beginning. Other dams in the system began to fail, one after another, a chain reaction. By the time it was over, 62 dams had collapsed. The flood spread across more than 12,000 square kilometers. Cities, farms, roads, gone. Approximately 10 million people were affected, and for those directly in the path, there was no escape. The death toll remains uncertain. Official reports listed around 26,000 deaths from the initial flooding, but that was only the beginning. In the weeks and months that followed, survivors faced famine, disease, and displacement. Crops had been destroyed, water sources were contaminated, entire communities were left without infrastructure. Independent estimates suggest the true number of deaths ranges from 85,000 to over 200,000. Some estimates go even higher, and for nearly 20 years, almost no one outside the region knew it had happened. The disaster was classified as a state secret. No international aid was requested. No global attention was drawn. The scale of the tragedy was hidden, and the people who survived it were left to recover, alone. When the truth finally surfaced decades later, it forced a major shift in how dams were designed. The warnings that had been ignored were proven correct. Engineers began designing systems not for average conditions, but for the worst possible scenarios. The Banqiao Dam was eventually rebuilt, stronger, with better drainage, more capacity. It still stands today, but the lesson remains. This disaster wasn't just caused by nature. It was caused by a failure to listen, a failure to prepare, and the belief that something catastrophic simply wouldn't happen until it did. If you want more real stories like this, the moments where everything went wrong, subscribe to Earth Unleashed TV, because the most dangerous disasters aren't always the ones you see coming. They're the ones people thought could never happen.